This is going to be a lesson on how to create the drawing file for the bevel washer, which is a very simple part to be able to create in a drawing file and run the dimensions for. We're taking a look at this sheet again, and we're going to be copying the layout that we see with the bevel washer. So we're going to be creating our front view, our top view. We're going to create a better looking isometric view, and we're also going to create this view that projects off of the top of the 30-degree surface on the bevel washer, which is called an auxiliary view. So we're actually going to create this view as well. The dimensioning is going to be kept fairly similar. We are going to just clean it up a bit and make it look a little better. And we are not going to use as many decimal places. 4 decimal places is a bit excessive. And we are going to do things like try and keep dimensions that are between views outside of views. This dimension could easily be shown up here. There's no advantage to keeping it crowded with this auxiliary view. And things like you see here, this 30-degree angle, this arrowhead should line up with this dimension here, right? So we're going to be doing a little bit of minor cleanup work like that, make sure that dimension spacing is consistent, right? This one is closer, this one is further away. So we're going to get started. So you can open up the bevel washer model and go to File, New, and make sure we're in English, and we're going to create ANSI inch IDW create for our drawing file. Now, the D size sheet is too large, so we're going to take a look at a C size sheet. And we have this. All right. So we're going to just clean this up a bit. Let's pull our top view down. And this isometric view, we can double click it and change its orientation. So we can look at this from the front, and then we can hit this corner here, and that's the orientation I prefer. So we're just going to go into scale, and we're going to change this to 3/4. So we're doing the same thing that we've been doing with the basic solid models. We scale our isometric view down to about 3/4. Now this view here, the right side view, we don't really need to have that one either, but we'll leave it for now. And to create the auxiliary view, you go up here, and it's under the Place Views tab. So we find auxiliary here, select it, and then select the surface, and we can pull that view off, just like this. And then left click, and then we can create it. So I think we're going to have to drop the right side view because this is going to crowd way too much. Right? I need to be able to move this view down, and this is going to run the right side view right into the title block, which is not what we want. So what we're going to have to do is go over to this view, right click, or select it and hit delete and hit OK. Now this is the problem with the Inventor title blocks. I don't like the way they've designed them, where they keep them in a box in the bottom right hand corner. It would be better to have something along the bottom here that runs from this sheet border to here, and we're not basically losing all this space here. So one of these days I'll have to create my own custom title block for the class to use, when I can find that kind of time. So we have our layout. This pretty much matches our sheet. Again, we fixed up the isometric view a little bit. And what we need to do now is add the center lines here. So I'm going to go to Annotate, and I'm going to select Bisector, Centerline Bisector, and select this hidden line and this hidden line. That will create the center line going through that cylindrical hole. We're also going to add a center mark here. And this part is symmetrical as well, so what we could do is run a center line here to here as well, but I don't want this one here. So we're gonna delete that one, right? I just want this one running into the middle, right there. Now we're not gonna add center lines to this one per se, just basically because these are elliptical circles. So generally we don't add center lines to anything that is elliptical. Right, so we're going to leave that alone. But to get started, we're going to run a general dimension. So this dimension here I like, this 0.75, so we're going to have it come out here, and then we're going to run a dimension from here to here. Right, and you see these ones on the sheet, right? They're in the same position. We also have this one here, the 1/2 inch. And then we're going to run from here to here the 30 degrees. Now we want this to basically line up with that 1/2 inch, right? Because all dimensions should chain up when possible. There's no advantage to have this sit a little bit behind or a little bit further than this dimension arrowhead right here. So that looks fine. And we also need to run a dimension from here to here, to 2.69. And we may bring that a little bit closer because we're trying to keep this consistent, right? When I look at all these dimensions, the spacing of them all should be fairly consistent. I shouldn't have one way out in the breeze, way out here, and then one super close. And this is something that when I was checking the basic solid modeling drawing files that were submitted, I was doing markups, I was finding a lot of inconsistent dimensioning spacing. So that's something that we really need to get working on in the intermediate models and make sure we're doing it correctly from the get-go, right? We're also making sure that our center lines and our dimension extension lines have that gap, right? If I click here, this line and this center line, it's going to automatically leave the gap for me when I create the dimension. And we also are going to be running a radius dimension here, right? So again, we're going to try to keep the spacing consistent. You can really, this one here, you got to eyeball this, right, to look similar to the others. So we got the radius 0.25, and we're also going to run a dimension from let's redo this one from here. Whoops. We're just going to select a line like that. All right. That's what we need. Okay. So just pick that line and then pull the dimension up. Again, it's a bit crowded, but it still fits. We can even drag this auxiliary down a little bit to kind of keep the spacing between them, fairly consistent by looking at it by eye. We also are going to have a dimension from here to here, right? That's going to be aligned. Now watch how this one was created, right? I picked this line, and then it should automatically give you that gap, right? This extension line should not be covering the object geometry at all. And one thing that I need to do is pull this down a bit so the spacing is consistent like we've seen in other places. Now we also need to identify our our radius is here, right? This diameter circle as well. So we're going to pick this one. And, you know, this is obviously going to have to go between two views, right? So we're going to try to keep our spacing consistent like we did up here. And then we're also going to create the radius 2 dimension here. And we're going to try to line this one up as best we can. We don't want this one sticking way out here or really close. We want this one to rest, you know, fairly in line with that diameter symbol. The R should be kind of in line with that diameter symbol as best as we can get it. And we have it right there. So we pretty much, we have everything that we need here. Just taking one last look at this. Yeah. You know, we could have an overall dimension. You know, we'll have to put it between views. Right? We can't, normally we fit things like this up here, but we're pretty crowded for space in the C-size title block because of the auxiliary view. So we're going to have to make do with this dimension, you know, being down here, right? Or what we may do, actually a better idea, let's run this dimension that we have above down here. Consistently, right? And then we'll take this one, and what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to move this dimension down here like we originally saw on the sheet, and we'll just add this dimension here. All right, I think that looks better. Right, so we've got our overall length, right? We've got our radius value here. Yeah, I would call that dimensioning done at that point, right? That's pretty much all you need for this one. So we're going to do the title block, and that's going to be it. So we're going into iProperties, again, summary, changing my name. Everything has to be all lowercase. I mean, uppercase, sorry. Uppercase. Title is the BEVEL washer. Company is Ancaster High School. Project, so the revision on this is 0. So every time you make a change to a drawing, once it's been given back to you, the next time you would rev this up to 1. So if you have a markup that needs correcting, when you go in, you go to the title block, you would change that to a 1. So every time you revise something that's been released, it has to be revved up. That's what that means. This is an original release, so it's 0. Checked by. Got my checker who's going to check my work, the date they're going to check it, project, and part number. This is 3M1, and this is our 4th drawing file, so it's 04. Apply and close. All right, let's take a look at this. Drawing number looks good. Revision is good. C-size, title, the school, who drew it, and who's checking it. Perfect. All right. So it turns out I pretty much did copy the layout exactly. I just added an overall dimension. Everything else should be exactly where it is on this sheet here. A little better spaced, and I just snuck the overall dimension in. It's very helpful to have an overall dimension when you're creating a drawing file. And yeah, I'm just going to move that down a bit just to keep the spacing not so crowded. And that's it. So after you've completed this, this is ready to be submitted. So we're going to save this. Bevel washer, it'll have the same name as the part file. And then I'm going to go to File, Save As, but not click Save As. Go to Save Copy As. And then go into Save As Type, select PDF, and then hit Save. That will create my PDF copy. And then I've got these 3 files to submit to the next Dropbox. All right, so this is going to be your task for today. Good luck, take care, and I will talk to you soon.